I'm finishing up my lunch over here, so give it a few minutes while we wait for people to join us before we dive into the next part of our story. It's just a good time to mention that this here chili, this is a great way to get your protein in. So if you're looking to build muscle and you're struggling with how to get a lot of protein in, this bowl of chili right here is like 40 to 50 grams of protein. So in one meal, you're getting just a huge bunch of protein. Plus, it's got a lot of fiber in there. It's got some seaweed in there, if you can see that, for iodine. So highly recommend it. It's delicious and very high protein. So that's the way to keep the muscle coming in. Got to eat plenty of protein. So today we're diving into part 4 of the story, the addiction prediction. So we're diving into social media and how that affected my story. Before we dive into that new part, of course, we're going to recap briefly just the last part that I read last week before we get into the new part. So yeah, say hi when you jump on. Let me know what you're excited to hear about during today's live. I gotta switch my YouTube here on my computer. I'm on the wrong account. All right, we've got a couple more people on here. Say hi, let me know you're here. Let me know if you remember what happened last week or if you want me to recap. In case you missed it, I'm having some high protein chili. Highly recommend if you're looking to build muscles. It's got like 40, 50 grams of protein. If you get 40 or 50 grams per meal, it's pretty easy to get your protein in. Hey, Kelly, thanks for joining. Okay. I'm just over here eating away, but really, we need to dive back into the story. So, we talked about last week in part 3, we talked about where it all started. I talked about the first gym that I worked at and how I was, going from a few random workouts here and there to training more than I had ever trained before. A typical day of exercise was like 5.5 hours of exercise, which is quite wild. I was like 20 years old, but still, you can't maintain that for too long. Next, we had a life-changing decision. I shouldn't talk with my mouth full. A life-changing decision. I talked about moving to San Diego and just like eating, breathing, sleeping kettlebell sport. Going from competition to competition, pushing myself harder and harder, even though deep down I knew I couldn't keep going at the rate I was going at, but I didn't listen. Just kind of the theme of this story. I did not listen to my body, which is why in Kettlebell Solo, I really emphasize that you listen to your body. It's something I emphasize to other people because I know the disastrous consequences of not listening to your body and of ignoring those signals. Okay. So the last part from last week that we're going to recap here is called Kettlebell Celebrity. Here I come. I'm going to read this. We read it last week, but just so you know where we left off before we get into the new part of the story. I was bursting with excitement as I stood in front of a group of kettlebell sport athletes and coaches. I couldn't believe I was teaching alongside 8-time world champion and master of sport international class, Denis Vasiliev. On top of that, people were looking at me in awe as if I was as impressive as he was. Someone even asked me to sign their kettlebell. It was a symbol of my elevated status in the kettlebell world. I had gone from struggling to snatch a 10 kg kettlebell to joining the ranks of an elite group of top-level kettlebell sport athletes in less than 5 years. I was attending competition after competition and setting records left and right, which led to getting paid to travel and teach workshops. And the strangest things, thing. People approached me at competitions to meet me and ask for a photo. My online presence was growing by the day, and as a result, I got hired by a popular kettlebell company to create content for them. I had the chance to be the best in the world, and I was very motivated to do so. Chasing the accolades and ranks had become my identity, a way to prove I was a success so that others would be impressed, praise me, and give me the attention and opportunities that I drew validation from. I never stopped to ask myself why I was so driven to achieve and become famous. It just seemed like something that anyone in my shoes would want. Posting my competition results online was a way for me to draw attention to my achievements. Social media is a great place to look for praise. With every new accomplishment, the likes went up and my following grew. That's when the Instagram addiction really began to take hold. More on that next. And that's what we are diving into today. Elena said, folks, put your thumbs up so others can join. I appreciate that, Elena. Yeah, heart and like this video. If you think more people should see it, I appreciate that. Okay. So we're going to dive into this new part of the story. Addiction prediction. Okay, so that's the name of the first part here. Let's dive in. Resistance was futile. Despite my best efforts to avoid smartphone technology, I was eventually lured into acquiring an iPhone, against my better judgment. I had seen how smartphones stole people's focus and quickly addicted them to their devices. I wanted to believe that it wouldn't happen to me, but I knew that I would fall prey to addiction just the same. I was living in San Diego and had started building my online presence to help me drum up business, so I figured it was as good a time as any to finally bite the bullet in the name of self-promotion. So I did, and lo and behold, my addiction prediction came true. With my iPhone in hand and social media as my medium, I was creatively able to get my name out there and to draw in opportunities I would have missed out on otherwise. In time, my social following built up, along with my ego, as those things tend to do. I found validation in other people's approval of me in the form of their likes and follows. My ego told me that being a famous somebody would make me happy and fill the hole inside that I was so desperately running away from. I know it sounds kind of cliche, it sounds kind of common, but that's my story. I began posting more and more of my life online and getting rewarded for it with praise, attention, and opportunities. While Instagram was useful for proliferating information that helped people and helped me grow my mailing list, in retrospect, the way I was using the platform became painfully similar to every other Fitspo, fitness inspiration, out there. My body was my calling card, and the party tricks got attention, but not without consequences. Find out what those consequences were in our next chapter, which we're going to read in a minute. But let me know if you have any thoughts on that first chapter. Does any of that surprise you? Is it relatable to anybody? Any thoughts, questions? Giving myself an excuse to finish my chili. Okay, no thoughts, no questions. Let's move on to the next chapter. It's called The Instagram Idol. Lisa said, hi, share your chili recipe, please. I will, but I have to write it down because I didn't take it from a website, really. I'll just do something specific. Elena said, yes, I relate. I used to write perfume review on Fragrantica and counted the likes. It's easy to do. It's easy not to, I mean, it's hard not to get wrapped up in it. So this is the photo for the next chapter. The Instagram idol. There's the idol there. And me doing push-ups. Essentially me bowing down in front of the Instagram idol. It was a natural progression to post more and more of the things that people responded to. Let me know if this has ever happened to you, if you use social media. It's a natural progression, right? To the things that people like, the things that get a lot of traction, you're going to post more of it. Performing impressive physical feats while scantily clad racked up the likes on Instagram and steadily grew my following. My time in the gym became less about training and more about showing off and recording myself doing so, while wearing less clothing so that people could see my muscles. I denied that my identity was tied to how I portrayed myself online, but the truth is that Instagram started becoming my life. At one point, I even caught myself thinking, what would I do if I wasn't on Instagram? I literally caught myself thinking that, like, what would I spend my time on? Like, how would I like live my life if I wasn't Instagramming? Unfortunately, I was basing my self-worth on my body and physical skills, which gave me the praise and attention I was in search of to feel good about myself. This further drove the compulsion to exercise because that's what kept my body and my physical skills intact. Instagram, in addition to over-exercising, was a great way to avoid myself. Let me know if you've ever used Instagram or another form of social media to avoid yourself or to avoid something you're doing or to procrastinate. Still do it. If I was feeling lonely, bored, or sad, I could flip open Instagram and have an instant distraction, not to mention an ego boost if I posted something. I could have a shallow conversation with someone or simply scroll for 30 minutes and be mind-numbed. When I look back, I can't believe how much of my life I spent on Instagram and filming for Instagram, thinking I would miss something otherwise. In reality, there's many things I missed as a consequence of spending so much time staring at my phone. The excuse I told myself was that I was building my brand and becoming an influencer. While there was truth in that, the biggest reason I used Instagram was to validate my ego and avoid the emotional and spiritual distress roiling beneath the surface. So what finally drove me to quit Instagram? Find out in the next chapter. Questions? Thoughts? We've got another chapter we're going to dive into next. It's called Why I Dumped Instagram. Although if you follow me, you know that I'm back on Instagram now, but I dumped Instagram for a period of time, and you're going to hear why. Elena said, let me guess, unwanted attention. No, because I was looking for attention, Elena. That's a good guess, but I wasn't like trying to avoid attention by being on social media. I was looking for attention. I was enjoying that attention and the validation I got from the attention. So, yeah, that wasn't why. But it's a good guess. Okay, finally finished my chili, so you guys stop having to watch me eat. Okay, here's my photo for why I dumped Instagram. Instagram's in the trash can and a little rainbow and a broken heart and a sad looking lady. It's not actually me, but it worked for the image. My knees aren't that I don't have hyperextended knees. All right, so why I dumped Instagram. This one might be relatable for any of you who went through a global pandemic like I did. Hint, I think we all went through that. Stuck at home, I was lonelier than ever. When the pandemic struck, exercising and posting on Instagram became even more pervasive in my life. I was following an intensive gymnastic strength and mobility training program, weighted pull-ups with a 36 kg kettlebell. So for those of you who don't know, it's like 80 pounds. I was doing weighted pull-ups with like an 80-pound kettlebell. Handstand push-ups, overhead presses, middle splits, and more. I built a lot of muscle, and I got huge. My body was inflamed from overdoing my training. Yet again. Clearly, I still didn't learn my lesson. I was abusing my body, using training as an avoidance mechanism like I had for years while still feeling unfulfilled and unhappy. This time, however, someone noticed and asked, have you ever thought about why you push yourself so hard? No one had ever asked me that before. That question changed and perhaps even saved my life. I started examining myself, being honest about my true feelings and motivations. I looked at my history, the way I was portraying myself in the world, and the manner in which I was relating with other people. I was shocked, appalled, and heartbroken by what I found when I was actually honest with myself. I couldn't believe how far off course I had gotten from what really I believe my true nature is. You know, we all kind of have that true nature, that essence that you embodied when you were a child. I had chased achievement my entire life because of the belief that success, as society portrays it, career, money, having the perfect relationship, all these different things that, we portray as being successful, would bring me acceptance and accolades. I thought it would make me feel happy and loved. I was achieving one thing after another, each time hoping to feel worthy and like I was enough, and it never worked. Instead, I felt a greater compulsion to do the next thing, each time thinking that that thing would finally give me what I was looking for, or that thing would finally make me feel happier. The definition of insanity is to do the same thing over and over again and expect different results, which is exactly what I was doing at the expense of my body's health, my health in general. It was a vicious cycle, one in which I hadn't even realized that I was trapped. It took some time, but eventually I accepted the role that Instagram had played in avoiding myself and perpetuating dysfunctional behaviors. After I made the decision to leave San Diego and focus on healing, I dumped Instagram. And that is part 4, and it's going to lead into the next part next Monday, which is called The Flood. And you're not going to want to miss that, because this is where it gets a lot deeper. And if any of you have ever explored your emotions and maybe your childhood experiences, you've explored a path of emotional and spiritual healing, you're definitely going to be interested in what I share next week, because it's the beginning of me, really embarking on that journey. And it's very vulnerable. It was some of the hardest times of my life, and I truly believe it got me on a much better path in life, a much healthier path overall. So I'm going to be excited to share more of that with you next Monday. But do you have any thoughts, comments, or questions about the piece of my story that I shared today? I'd love to answer any questions you have. If you have any follow-up questions on things I said that you don't totally understand or you want to know a little more about, happy to dive into that. If you can relate to any of this, struggling with social media or feeling like a phone addiction or social media addiction, definitely let me know. Or if you have any other questions about fitness, kettlebells, or training in general. If you didn't see it yet, on my YouTube channel today, I shared a short. It's a longer short, so for those who don't know, YouTube recently expanded the length of shorts. So shorts, whereas they used to be, I think, 90 seconds at most, they're now up to 3 minutes long. So I posted my first 3-minute long short, which is a tour of the Beyond Balance facility, which is a place that makes stall bars, parallettes, and more. So the awesome stall bar setup that I have here, if you want to know more about how those are made, it's actually quite fascinating. Check out the short that I posted today. It's got some really fun little clips in it. Would love for you guys to check it out and let me know your thoughts. So if you just go to my page and check out the shorts tab, you will find it there. Me doing a handstand in front of some stall bars, and it says Beyond Balance Stall Bar Facility Tour. Check that out. Elena says, I have a phone addiction. Elena, who doesn't in this day and age, you know? You're not alone by far, you know, especially I know as somebody who like works online and creates content and for a living on social media platforms, you know, it's really almost impossible to not have a phone addiction these days. It's like we're always on our phone. Everything is on our phone now. So don't feel too bad about it. I think it's important for all of us to just keep it in check from time to time and make sure we have times where we don't have our phone with us, and you know, we make sure it doesn't adversely affect our health too much, or you know, some social media makes us feel anxious or depressed. Spending less time on it or unfollowing accounts that make us feel that way, you know, that we really don't need to be looking at, I think can be really helpful in just making sure that we're acting responsibly with this addictive little device that we have. So it's amazing. Our phones offer so many cool benefits. Like I can be talking to people all over the world on this live and reaching different people who would otherwise, you know, not hear my story or not be able to access my kettlebell coaching. And there's times where I'm so sick of staring at a screen and I want more, you know, in-person social connection, and I don't feel like making videos and content because it's kind of it's a fantasy world a little bit on the interwebs. You know, there's things that are real about it, but there's also a lot of stuff that you don't know what is real. So now in these days of AI, we really don't know what's real and what isn't. And as the AI gets better, that's going to get a little bit more challenging. I aim to be minimally AI, although I do think that AI can be really useful in gathering information that maybe you would otherwise have to spend hours pulling together and researching, pulling from different sites. You can have AI kind of do that for you. So there are some great benefits to it. But overall, AI scares me. You guys have any other questions about my story today? Oh, thank you, Elena. Elena said, you train more people than you know, Brittany. You generously posted so many great workouts. Yeah, and would love to continue to post more things that are helpful for you. So if you guys have suggestions, I love to hear it because, again, I come up with stuff that I think is useful or intriguing or helpful, and it really helps to know from your end of the spectrum what are you liking, what is most helpful to you, because my aim is to help and provide value. I think that's crucial for all of us to figure out how we can help and provide value to the people in our lives, whether it's our family, our friends, you know, our community, or people on the internet. Any other questions or thoughts on today's story? Any guesses for next week's portion that's going to be called The Flood? I'm going to have to make a fun little thumbnail for you guys so you can see that. I think my thumbnails have been getting better. You guys can let me know. But I've been trying to make them a little bit more compelling than they were before. I was doing a little bit of shoddy work, and I think we're getting better now. So you guys can let me know what you think about that. So yeah, next week will be The Flood and a couple other sections that I'm excited to share with you. Let's see. I'm going to start making my thumbnails while you guys let me know if you have any other questions that you would like to ask. Shabnam said, hi, please give me some tips to growth my height. Are you an adult? Because if you're a kid, you know, make sure you eat good. But if you're an adult, I don't think I can help you with that. I don't think I can change your height for you. Sorry. Wish you the best. Any other questions? All right, well, no other questions. Then we're gonna go ahead and log off. Thank you so much for joining me for this portion of my story. And I will see you next Monday for part 5 of the series. Make sure you join me then. Thank you for being here and have a great